We're going to get started with our first official speaker, poiupoiu, or Steve, one of the staff guys here, obviously. He lives in Huntsville, Alabama, loves some FFmpeg, rsync, SSH, and Oxford comma. He's spoken at FreakNIC several times, and you can see them online. I think they're all recorded and up there. Previously on FFmpeg, video editing, and other nerdy subjects. So this year, he brings a new nerdy talk to the table. Welcome, Poiu. Welcome, Steve.
All right, how's everyone doing? Woo! All right. So yeah, as Ben was saying, I go by poiupoiu, or Steve. So this talk, like Ben was talking about earlier, was about a couple years in the making. Years ago, whenever Not Larry was walking around, hey you, what are you going to talk about? I'm going to talk about this. Okay. And then I'm following up on it. So first off, who am I? Why you should listen to me. This is I'm a AV nerd, as Ben was talking about, from FreakNIC 17 through 24. I was actually also helped out with B-Sides Atlanta from 2018 through 2020. Christian, husband, daddy, and engineer in that order. I've been creating ISOs, Windows ISOs as part of my job now for about 5 or 6 years, both internal and external people. So in my internal team, we have a custom Windows ISO spin up on a VM. Next thing you know, all right, hey, it has all of our configurations. It has a base group policy. It has a bunch of options. You say, I want to install 7-zip. I want to install this program. I want to install Notepad++. I want to install this internal use that we have. Click, 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 click. Next, next. About 15 minutes later, you have your Windows environment right now. And I have a couple fancy pieces of paper. Some have expired, some have not. But, you know, I know a thing or two about this. So, first off, why? Why would you even want to subject yourself to this process? One, if your company's that guy. I refer to myself as that guy. Hey, I need some money for my team. Go see that guy. I need a laptop. Go see that guy. A box fell off, hit me in the head. Well, go start talking to that guy. Get the EMTs in. So, it's also frequently if you install Windows on a bunch of different virtual machines or systems. If they're identical, even better. If they're not, that's even better. And also to say, here's an ISO. And that's all the things that they need. They don't need to worry about drivers. They don't need to worry about, oh, I need to go online and download Chrome or whatever. It's all offline. So the main question about all this, though, is why not Clonezilla? So Ghost, which is still a thing out there, believe it or not, and Clonezilla, they clone everything. They clone the installed drivers that are in the system. They include primarily the big thing though is the built-in Windows System Identifier, the SID. Not going to be a big deal, but whenever you have a system with like a network with WSUS, Windows Server Update Services, use McAfee or Trellix ePolicy Orchestrator, EPO, or Active Directory, they use this SID. If you have conflicting SIDs on two different machines, you're going to have a bad time. So MDT, what I'm going to be talking a lot about, allows for drivers to be installed at deployment time. So you can have your base your base Windows image, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about this, and hopefully it'll be more clear. And then you can have like 20 gigabytes of drivers that support your Dell laptops, your HP laptops, your rugged systems, your random off tablets. And as it gets deployed, you don't have 20 drivers in your base Windows image that are getting cloned over to everything. You have, the best way to describe it is, it doesn't clone. It creates a unique installation, a unique SID, a unique driver set on every install. So all your log files are going to be a little bit different. But if you have a wide variety of systems and hardware, this is the bee's knees. So some requirements of what you're going to need from this. Believe it or not, you can get all this stuff for free right now through Microsoft, through just stuff out there online. So first off, you're going to need tons of space. So for like your average Windows install disk, it's about 4 to 5 gigabytes. But what you'll see in a little bit that you'll need about 3 to 4 to 5 times what your final ISO size is going to be, because you have to have Windows will like to build it, and then you're going to build a media version of it, and then you get to build the ISO from that media version. And if you also are doing a thick or a thick image, then you'll need even more for that. Highly recommend a solid state being involved. You can do this with a hard drive, but why would you? There's going to be a ton of read and write on this. So if you have a fast solid state, do that. Virtual machines. Virtual machines are amazing. If you're doing a thick image and you mess it up, just roll back the last snapshot. Hey, all right. You do need a retail version of Windows. However, you can get that from Microsoft's website. You can go online right now, download their tool, and download their ISO. Hey, all right. The Windows Automated Deployment, I forgot what the ADK stands for, ADK. Again, you can get that from Microsoft. The Windows PE add-on, Microsoft. Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, Microsoft. And you're going to need a lot of patience. This is going to screw up. You're going to bang your head on this. In preparation for this talk, I probably spent 3 or 4 evenings working on this, of just working through the process. Like, all right, I do this almost every day. Let me start from scratch. Okay, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Oh yeah, the driver is too long. So you're going to need a lot of patience. So I talked a little bit about a thick and thin image. So a thin image is you import your retail WIM file that like you get from Microsoft's ISO. You add in your optional and mandatory installs. You add in your Windows patches, so like your servicing, stack updates, your cumulative updates, your drivers. And it just adds like that much. Upside is it's very easy to update, because you just throw in a new version of your cumulative update, you throw a new version of your applications in there, throw a new version of the drivers, good to go. The downside is Microsoft Windows has gotten great with cumulative updates. Office has not. Office is a pain. Every time you go check for updates, you have 15 different Office updates. So, if you want to get all of your Microsoft Office updates in one disk, it's a bit of time consuming to figure out, all right, I need this KB, I need this KB, I need this KB, this KB Pro, why isn't this working? So, the other option, like I talked about, was a thick image. And essentially what you're doing here is you're going to deploy a ISO into a guest OS. Virtual machine, it could be a standard machine, whatever. Virtual machines are fun though, because you got snapshots. So what you do there is you install all the stuff you want. You install your applications, you install significant modifications to your group policy, to the registry, to your whatever you want. Downside, now that you have to maintain this one image, and then you have to clean it up, and then you have to capture it, and then you have to import it into this. But the upside is, it is just the way that you wanted it. So overall path on this, we're going to install the Windows ADK, the PE add-on, MDT, and other tools as you need. For the thick image, we're going to install Windows in the virtual machine, install our baseline programs, clean it up, do a sysprep, capture that WIM file. All right, so now we have this Windows image file. That has a compressed version of your operating system, your program files, users directories, all that stuff that we all see from C:. We're going to import that captured file into MDT. We're going to add our customizations, and then we're going to test. And we're going to fail. And we're going to hit our head on the desk, and we're going to test again. And we're going to test, and tweak, and test. And then about step number 864, you're done. That wasn't so bad, was it? So, MDT. Like I said, we're going to do ADK, PE, and then the framework. But Microsoft being Microsoft, they have a patch for this. For whatever reason, they don't support MDT very well. I'm not entirely sure why. But there is a KB out there. You extract it and it says, here's 2 new files. Just replace these in your directory. So you have to manually patch it. So it's like, whatever. So a note about the latest version of the ADK for Windows 11. It is 64-bit only, and MDT tries to, by default, create a 64 and a 32-bit version. Windows 11 22H2 ADK, of course, does not have a 32-bit version, so MDT goes, oh, I don't know what to do. Also at the same time, Microsoft got rid of Edge. May it rest in peace. So and they got rid of Internet. I'm sorry, they got rid of Internet Explorer in favor of Edge. So the latest version of the 80K does not have Internet Explorer, and MDT calls on a lot of these scripts that are based off of Internet Explorer and all the old school things. So what they say is Windows 11 80K, you can use it, but it's more in beta with MDT. So they do recommend the latest Windows 10 80K. So Windows 10 2004 80K is the last 32-bit version, or the last version that supports 32-bit OSs and IE. So, a quick thing about MDT. Whenever you do it, it creates about a 400 to 500 megabyte ISO file. The intent is that you can pixie boot off of that. You can burn it to like a credit card size CD. You can burn it to a small CD. You can burn it to a thumb drive. You boot off of that, and then from there, it'll actually call back to the MDT server or a network server of Samba server, Windows File Share, and then from there it says, oh hey, here are all my files. I'm gonna go ahead and start downloading the WIM file. I'm gonna go ahead and start using all this stuff. Really slick if you have a whole bunch of machines and you're pixie booting this one ISO, and then it says, all right, well, here's the most recent version over here, and it just pulls the latest version of Windows. Cool. Alternatively, there's a advanced configuration, which is all this talk is going to be about, and that can actually generate a 100% offline install. So a couple little pretty pictures. This is a quick little screen grab from MDT itself, and so there it is. So you have your media deployment share, applications, operating systems like out-of-box, drivers, packages, task sequences, and then, like I said, down here under media, you got your advanced configuration in your media. So there it is. So, like I said, you got your boot environment, and then you got drivers, hotfixes, cumulative updates, applications, and your all your Windows WIM file, all wrapped up in this ISO. So, Saturday night, I have no date. I got 2 liter Bella Shasta and my all mixed rush tape. Let's rock. All right, so first thing we're gonna need is like I said, all this would be cool for just demonstration purposes, or for just talking, but let's actually do something. All right, so we have our Windows 10 image. Here, let's go ahead and duplicate. All right. So we got I have already downloaded the Windows 10 22H2 64-bit ISO. I just have to trust me if you can't really see. But yeah, it's about 4.45 gigabytes. So what we're going to do is we are going to open PowerShell as an admin. All right, and so we got our Windows 10 ISO right over here. Is there a way to make this bigger?
That's what she said.
Thanks, Dickie. All right, so command we're going to use is you're going to use the DISM to get the WIM file, get WIM info, WIM file. Oh, my bad. We're going to mount this disk first. That's what she said, right? All right. All right. So this mounts temporarily to my E drive. So we go to E:. We're going to look under sources, and we're going to look for this ESD file. It's installed that ESD file. It's about 4 gigabytes. So we're going to use DISM / commands right here. Get WIM info, WIM file, install.esd. All right, so it says index 1 is Windows 10 Home, Windows 2 is Windows 10 Home N, 3 is Windows 10 Home single language, 4 is Windows 10 Education, 5 is Windows 10 Education N, index 6 is Windows 10 Pro, and 7 is 10 Pro N. So let's start with 6. Let's go with Windows 10 Pro. So what we're going to do here is now we're going to use the same command, or same program, DISM, which is built into every Windows system. Say DISM export image source image file, one word with a colon, install.esd, source index 6, because we want Windows 10 Pro, and we want to destination image file. I hate all these switches. Image file. I'm going to dump this to f:/10pro.win, compress, let's do min, check integrity. So the difference between an ESD, oh, that didn't work. Whatever, good old Windows. The difference between an ESD and a .wim file. .wim file is an older compressed version of Windows images. ESD uses a different algorithm. So like in Windows 10 versions, you'll see .esd. It has, like I said, just a higher compression ratio. So, yay, now we're watching a all right, so while that's doing this in the background, I'm going to, like I said, talk a little bit about the thick image. So like I said, additional steps, we're going to install deploy this ISO into a virtual machine, install all of our baseline programs, install all of our updates, set our group policies, so like lock screen, backgrounds, where we want to put our point our update server to, if we want to do any other kind of tweaks like that. If we want to have something installed, and then every time we start up, it pops up, says, this is a machine that is owned by Yo Mama. That's fine. Do whatever you want. But you make this, apply this to your base image, and then from there, every time you deploy it, you're deploying this base image off of that. You set everything the way you want users to get it. Your user account files, user account specific files, stuff like that. As a admin, once you get to where you want to make your snapshot, you want to use a cleanup, the disk cleanup tool. Just like type in, this guy here that we probably have all seen, and like, oh yeah, I'm going to clean up system files. Yeah, I'm going to do so much, and it'll clean up if it ever loads. But yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. And it'll clean up Windows old Windows Update files, hopefully. There's also, you can use the same, 3 gigs, okay. So the smaller you can make your reference image, the better, because it'll take a lot less time to actually deploy and be a lot less size of the final ISO size. So you can also use DISM then from your reference image, analyze the component store and clean up that as well. And as of Thursday, I found this other program called Patch Cleaner that cleanups extra files from the Windows installer directory. So every time you install a new version of Adobe Reader or a new version of Office or new patches and stuff, they still get stuck in the Windows installer directory, and they just sit there taking up space. So, I mean, you can easily clean up on an old system 5 or 6 gigabytes real easily with just that. So, like I said, snapshots, important. I don't know how many times I've messed up machines and say, let me roll back. Done. From there, once you have the image the way you want it, you're going to use this program called sysprep. This also is included in every single version of Windows. I mean, I've used it going back to Windows 7, but it probably was back in like the XP time frame. So under C, Windows System 32 sysprep, there's this little sysprep guy. We want to say generalize, so that will actually get rid of the Windows SID that I talked about, and we want to shut down. So that'll delete the unique information on this install, and then it'll actually then spit out, it'll shut down, make your snapshot, and then you capture this image. How do you capture that? So through the deployment toolkit as well, you can make a bootable version of Windows PE. This is probably dating myself a little bit. Did anyone ever use like Bart's PE? All right, I got some head nods. All right, so it uses a pre-installation environment. Every time you boot up Windows from the disk, it says like, welcome to Windows. Click, do you want to do your custom or Express install that's using a pre-installation environment. It's a very stripped down version of Windows, very stripped down version of it. So you can use the ADK with the PE add-on to create this PE environment yourself. Once you're in there, then you can just use DISM to capture your image, and you go to the image path, capture directory like C:/compress max. So, all right, we're at 43% there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this because I already have a WIM file made. So we're gonna now switch over to our deployment toolkit right here. And where's it called? Display. Ah. Let me adjust to lower res. Okay. Can you all see that better? All right. Ben, did it come across? Cool. All right. So we got our PE. All right. This is the MDT itself. So we're going to right-click deployment share. We're going to create a new share. And what did I call it? This was F. All right. F:/PN. We're going to talk. That's our path. What is our shared name going to be? Because like I said, MDT will create this admin share, this hidden share that other versions can actually connect into and deploy the latest version of the WIM file and everything. We're going to call this FreakNIC talk. Okay, so right here it says, ask if a computer backup should be performed, ask for a product key, ask to set the local admin password, ask if an image should be captured, and ask if BitLocker should be enabled. We can leave that as is, we can check it, whatever we want, and these are all customizable tasks that we can actually choose during deployment. So I can hand you a disk and say, you set the password to whatever you want. I will never have a backdoor into this, or maybe I will. It's up to me how I want to make this, but I'm saying, here's something. I don't know that it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever I want it to be. It's entirely customizable. All right, so the process completed successfully. So now we got our FreakNIC talker over here. First thing we're going to do, operating system. We're going to import that. So let's right-click, import operating system, and we want to do a custom image file, add a captured WIM file that we wish to deploy. So with this, it's F:/FreakNIC talk. Actually, hang on, I messed this up. No, it wouldn't be under D, it would be under C:/PN demo. Ah. What was it yelling about? Ah, we need the WIM file. All right, so here is a WIM file that I have already extracted out. Next, setup files are not needed. A directory name that we want to call this. Next, we can say next to a lot of this. All right, so now it's, like I said, solid state, highly recommended. Because now we're copying 4 gigabytes off. You can imagine if you're doing this with a hard drive, it's going to take a long time. All right, so now we have our operating system. Let's add some applications. So we're going to say application, a new application. We're going to make it a application with source files. Next. So just happen to have a couple applications. All right, so 7-zip, it wants all this in a separate directory for all this. So let's do 7-zip. We can all agree 7-zip's a cool one to have, right? So let's say 7-zip application name. Next, source directory is, here, just plug in that source directory in. FreakNIC talk applications. Okay? Specify the name directory that should be created, 7-zip, yeah. Command line, we're going to say, so this is where you actually feed it the full command. So if you're able to find a silent install, fantastic. I think with 7-zip it's just /S. In Windows land, nothing, case doesn't matter except when it does. In the case of applications, lowercase s is different than capital S. All right, so now we are imported our application, 7-zip. Let's create a new one. Let's add Google Chrome. Source directory, it's going to be here. It's going to be under FreakNIC Talk, Applications, Chrome. And copy that over. Command line for this guy. And 9 times out of 10, if you don't know what the way to do a silent install is, you can just like Google Chrome silent install. So with MSIs, you need to do MSI exec/I, and then path name, typically then /qn for, I don't want to see anything. I just want it to pop up whenever it's done. I want to see it on the desktop, and that's it. Okay, so now we've imported Chrome. And let's do Notepad++ as well, because that's also a cool one. All right, so, and we can say version is Yo Mama. Okay, and it was the path installer for this is again capital S. So let's copy that in. All right, so now we have 3 applications. We have our operating system. The next step would be then to create our task sequence. So this is where it gets really cool. You can say our task sequence ID is demo. We're going to keep this in one in mind. And we're going to call this one hope I don't mess up. All right, it's going to be a standard task sequence, but we can say this can be a light touch OEM install, standard server task sequence install. We can deploy VHD, post install, all kinds of really cool stuff. Primarily, like I said, I'm going to be focusing on the standard client task sequence itself. So we say we want to feed it this WIM file, which is the Windows 10 Pro. If you have a multiple activation key, you can specify it in here, so that way it doesn't say, what's your, this version of Windows might not be genuine. If you have a product key for this version, you can put it in here. Note that retail keys can only be used to activate a single machine, or just not specify it at this time. Full name, Windows user. Organization is, say, Nashville 2600. All right. Admin password. Let's make we can specify an admin password here if we want. So if we can specify an admin password here, or we can specify an admin password on deployment. So let's say our password is going to be 12345. Super secure. Same combination on my luggage. All right. Cool things though that we can do with our task sequence here. We can open it up, and inside of our task sequence, we can control almost every little bit. So under our pre-install phase, new computer install, we can actually disable disabling formatting to BIOS and only do UEFI. We can say, well, I really don't like the stupid recovery partition. I'm going to get rid of that. And I want Windows to use all my space. Or I want it to say, leave 10%, you know, or 90, yeah, there we go. Not use remaining percentage of remaining disk space of 90%. Okay, cool. So, what else? Further, afterwards, I'll talk a little bit more, but there is a custom task down here under State Restore. This is after applications get installed, which hopefully doesn't bomb on me. But custom tasks, we can then add in a script to say, I want this to call a program whenever I'm done. I want this to do something very specific that I can do through PowerShell very easily. I want it to call this task to join the domain through PowerShell. I want it to do this. I want it to do this. I want it to map a network drive and then copy files over. Sure, we can do it that way. So we just custom task, we can say add a PowerShell script. We can, if we want to restart the computer afterwards, we can totally do that. So there's all kinds of crazy cool things we can do with this. All right, next, what did I, applications, oh yeah. Yep. All right, so now we're getting to the portions of this. So let's right-click, update deployment share. So this will actually build the pre-installation environment. It says it's mounting the WIM file, doing all this. While it's building this at first, I will talk a little bit about customizations. So if you do a first install with this, or a deployment, it's going to have a whole bunch of, do you want this? Do you want this? What do you want for your user account? Do you want to install? What task sequence do you want? You can customize all that. There's a screen that's just a welcome. This is the MDT bootloader. Yay, I don't care. You can make it say whatever you want. I have actually, in one of my times, said, yo, dummy, this is going to reformat your computer. Hit next to continue. Next. And then it's out of the user's hands. Everything else was silent. I think the guy I did that for he chuckled at first, and I was like, all right, yeah, of course that's not going to be the final verbiage. But, okay, we're almost done here. So the things I'm going to talk about, there's a bootstrap.ini and a custom configuration ini file. These are where all of your settings are going to be. So like I said, by default, it has this welcome screen. You can skip that. You just need to create this skip bdd welcome equals yes in both the bootstrap ini and custom configuration ini file. And the very frustrating thing about MDT is, much like Windows, sometimes it won't matter. It'll copy things over, except when it does matter. So the media, bootstrap, and custom configuration ini is completely separate from the other, from your regular, the regular deployment share. So you have to manually, if you want to do that, if you want them to be the same, you just have to manually copy that over. But maybe you don't want them to be the same. Okay, so some other custom configuration settings. I'll go through this real quick. We can say, skip the option to say, do you want to do this an install? Yes, I want to do an install. Do you want to capture? No, I don't want to do that. I want to skip the capture. I want to skip the thing where it says, what's your admin password? I want to skip the setting for the product key. I want to skip the setting where it talks about, do you want to make a computer backup? If we want to, we can say, make the applications page just disappear. I don't want to see that. Or we can say, skip applications equals no. I want it always to be displayed. The finish action. So once this is completed, once this has finished deploying, and MDT has gone through its whole thing, you can either say, I want it to log off, and I want the user to log on the first time. I want it to restart. I want it to shut down. So all kinds of, it's still going. There. Hide shell, I'll talk about that here in a minute. Skip BDD welcome, we already talked about. If you only have one task sequence, a user's going to screw that up. Come on, guys. You know, what do I click? There's only one option. You click the one option. You can say, I want to skip it says, where's the task sequence? But you have to put your task sequence ID in there. You have to specify that. If you want to, you can have it skip the computer name. You can have it say, just pick desktop dash blah, 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 gobbledygook for every new install. Or you can specify the host name if you want every single machine to be named the same. You can have it skip computer name equals no, and the user will have to sit there and I want my computer name to be called poiupoiu laptop. I want my name, whatever you want it to do. Skip user data, like that. Skip locale selection. If you know exactly, it's always going to be Central Time or Eastern Time, you can do that. I always want it to be in English. This skip summary and skip final summary. So skip summary will say, okay, here's what I'm going to do, or let's go. And then the final summary is afterwards, it finishes up MDT, it does its thing, and before it does its finish action here, it will say, all right, I finished it all. If you have the option, you actually can configure BitLocker from inside of MDT itself. So that way, you don't have to, all right, encrypt, BitLocker, do this, do this, do this, do this. You can say, all right, I just want it to say I want to turnkey install, say, hey dummy, this is going to reformat your computer. Okay. 15 minutes later, it restarts, and it's BitLockered. It's BitLocker encryption. It has your usernames, passwords already built into it, and it has all your applications built into it. So someone can just take it within a brand new computer, start to finish, 15 minutes. They have a working system. Okay. So back over in MDT, I'm going to advanced configuration, media. We're going to create a new media. FreakNIC talk media. Okay, so I'm just creating the actual media now. And then we're gonna, right here, so if you go down to right-click properties, rules, this is the standard from whenever we said, I want to skip this, I want to skip this. I don't want to skip this. It just kind of came up with a very default version of this. So this is where we will put all of our custom configuration settings. So we say, all right, it's under F1. Custom settings. So like I said, I got all these. All right, so we're gonna skip BDD welcome. We're gonna skip backup. We are gonna say, do not skip applications. I want that to come up all the time. We want our finish action to be log off. We want to hide the shell. We want to skip the task sequence. The task sequence ID is, let's apply this. Let's go back to here. Task sequence ID is demo, all right? And this is, if you want to open this up, you can always go to under content, deploy, control, and here are our custom settings and bootstrap INI. So let's open that up with Notepad++. All right, so we say, all right, our task sequence that we always want to use is demo. So we say this is demo. Skip computer name, well, let's leave that as a no, just for kicks and giggles. All right, other cool thing. I want user to be able to next, and always have Chrome selected. Or I want them to not be able to uncheck Chrome. So we can totally do that. So we can go under our deployment workbench applications. Let's make Google Chrome mandatory install. So every time you import a new program or application, it creates a new GUID. So we're going to copy that. And it's mandatory applications 001. And if you want a second one, it's mandatory applications 002. So on and so forth. If you want something to be selected by default, it's just applications. But it's plural in that sense. All right. All right. What's another? The other application. You want to make 7-zip by default checked. Sound good? All right. So let's just make this. Again, this is not our mandatory application. This is just our regular application. We want to skip the locale selection. We want to skip user data. We want to skip the summary. We want to skip the final summary, and we want to skip BitLocker. Okay, so let's save this. And we also want to skip the welcome. So let's copy the skip welcome file and dump it into our BDD. So the other really, really cool thing is you can specify rules. So by default, this will run. This is the rule set that's going to run. If you want it to run off of a certain MAC address, like in a virtual machine, you want to specify your MAC address as 00deadbeef00. You can make a very customized task sequence for that MAC address every single time, rather than running all your defaults. It'll run whatever you want. Thank you, Epic Games. All right, so we have all that cool. Right-click, media, update media content. So now it's copying all of our files over. It's taking care of that. And we can go over here, and already we can see that it's getting bigger. Operating systems, it's copying our WIM file into our media directory. Yep, that's done. Like I said, solid state. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. So I'm doing this off of a solid state USB drive. My poor little CPU. But so right now it says it's finished copying standard folders and it's updating boot images. So while we are doing that, let's go ahead and get I have a virtual machine ready for this. Details, it has 8 gig, sorry, this one. 8 gigs, let's change the system to 3 processors since I only have 3. And I'm using EFI. Okay. So this is a brand new VM. There's no files on it. All right, unmounting when. Okay, while it's doing that, let's jump back over here. So, like I said, this is just saying mandatory applications 001, applications 001. Mandatory makes it mandatory, and you cannot uncheck it. Just specifying applications makes it by default checked. At the same time, I can't do it. Under applications itself, you double click on like 7-zip. You can actually hide it. So you can make it a mandatory application, but hide it so the user doesn't know 7-zip will always get installed, or in our case, Chrome. All right, so I talked a little bit about this section where it said, has anyone ever seen this screen? It's taking a lot longer. We'll be ready. So I'll point this out whenever we boot. But what happens is there's really 4 phases on an MDT deployment. There's a pre-installation phase. That's where it formats your hard drive, it copies and deploys, extracts your WIM file onto your hard drive. That sets up your root partition, or your root C:, all your Windows settings, or Windows directory, your program files, all that stuff. Then it does one reboot, where it finishes installing devices and starting services. It does a 3rd reboot, where it actually logs into the built-in administrator, and that's where it finishes installing all your applications. And then that's where, if you have that final summary checked, that's where this comes in. And that's where it says this summary. After that, it does your finish action, either a shutdown, log off, or restart. And then it goes in the 4th phase, which is where whoever can use it now, it's usable. So this comes up during the 3rd phase, whenever it's logged into the built-in administrator account. And typically what's happening here is some screen has popped up and says, I ran into an error, or do you want to click next? Do you want to install npcap? And, or, yep, I finished. The final wizard pops up, says, yep, I finished everything, good. You want to give me a cookie? And it just sits here and says, this is taking a bit longer. And so after about 5 or 6 minutes, it finally finishes up and says, it just dumps you out. So a way to get around it, though, is you can make a modification to your unattend file for your specific task sequence. So this is where you need the hide shell setting, and then you need to disable enable first logon animation. That's where it says, we're getting everything ready for you. Just one moment, almost there, all that. Second, we need to run this, this registry hack right here, where delayed desktop switch timeout. In this case, it has a value of 5. It just says, after 5 seconds of sitting here waiting, saying, getting ready, getting ready, getting ready, then it just stops and dumps you into the screen. So, all right, so now we got our media. Let's go ahead and make those changes that we just talked about. This is under, yep, this is under my FreakNIC talk media content deploy. We go under control to demo, which is our task sequence, our unattend file. So let's open that up in Notepad, and then scroll down a little bit, scrolling. Here's where we're looking at, under the run synchronous command block. So it says regardless of what happens, if you in your base WIM file, if your admin account, a built-in admin account is disabled, it'll re-enable it. It will, I think it blanks out the, no, it does not blank out the password. It disables user account page. It does a couple of these things already. So let's go ahead and make those changes. Oop, not there. I'm gonna copy that block. All right, there we go. We're gonna have that twice. All right, so we're gonna change this order to number 5. Change this order here to number 6. And then here it is. What I'm gonna do is, no, I could have just copied that. All right, run synchronous command. Copy those in. So now it's going to registry add a key to HKey local machine software Microsoft Windows current version policy system, enable first login animation 0 to disable that, and then it's going to run another command to do this delayed desktop switch timeout. All right, so we're going to save that. Go back to our workbench.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
go back to that file. Is line 103 right? An extra close tag.
No. That would have. Thank you. Thank you very much, Brimstone. That was going to be very, very fun.
We love live debugging.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, so now we have this. I forgot to set something up. All right. The other really cool thing about setting the pre-installation environment is you can also set pre-installation environment in variables. And I can almost guarantee that I'm going to crash MDT because there is a known bug with this. But you can say, I want my scratch space to be 32 megabytes. I want my scratch space to be so big. I want a different background. So this is where I'm probably going to cause MDT to crash. So I just disabled x86. Here's my 64-bit. I'm going to set my scratch space to 256. Cool, it didn't break up. And I want to set a custom background file. In my case, I have it under, oop, not there. //FreakNIC talk images. It does take only a bitmap, and so not a JPEG. So let's copy that as a path, and MDT crashed. So this is a known issue with MDT. Thanks, I don't want to report that to Microsoft because they're not going to fix it. Let's disconnect. Okay, so let's go back to deployment to workbench. And we are coming up on the end, hopefully, if this worked. So our advanced configuration, media, right-click, properties, Windows PE, 64-bit version, and I want to replace this with that file. Delete. Is that right? Nope, nope. I'm on the wrong deployment share. All right, here we go. Advanced configuration, media, right-click, properties, Windows PE, 64. Let's dump that here. Delete. Okay. All right, didn't break. All right, so now we right-click, update media content. It's making sure that WIM file's good. It has all that. So let's head back over to our FreakNIC media, deploy, and it's copying everything over, and it's creating this new light touch media ISO file. And we can see CPUs being heavily used. And mounting WIM. All right, setting up boot images and configuration. Now it's going to create our media. So again, solid state. Very, very highly recommended. Okay, so now let's go over to my VirtualBox. I want to say details. And I want to use this new ISO that we just created. So I want to use this new ISO. Don't crash on me. Live demos.
He's just jokered out.
For laptop. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. So let's choose a disk file, and it's going under FFmpeg Talk Media, Light Touch Media. That was created just now. Okay, okay. Ready? Okay. So probably won't have time to finish it. I know I'm getting close to my time, but press any key to boot from the DVD. So now, like I said, we're booting our pre-installation environment right now. I think I'm mostly done with the slides. All right, so yeah, like I said, getting back to the presentation portion, generate the ISO, test. Some other things you can do, like I showed in the task sequence area in your post deployment, you can create a custom PowerShell script. I have found PowerShell works more reliably than batch files. So I'm not sure why, but sometimes batch files just never get executed. Yeah, but I mean, anything in batch you can do, or anything through a command prompt you can do in PowerShell. And typically you can do more stuff with PowerShell. You can, as part of deployment, you can edit, disable, and rename your built-in accounts. You can set passwords. You can create new user accounts. If you, with Dell laptops, they have, or Dell systems, they have the command and control toolkit, the CCTK. From there, you can actually enable secure boot. So the user never has to click enable secure boot. You can edit clear TPM. You can do whatever you want with the Dell CCTK. Like I did earlier, you can enable BitLocker. So you can have BitLocker enabled on these machines as you go. If you want any programs to run, and you want to use like the, whenever an admin logs in for the first time, you can use the run once registry hack in there. You can copy over specific custom files. You can also then modify your unattend.xml for your task sequence, and you can say, I want my background to always look like this. I want my screen resolution to look like this. So, here we go. All right, computer name, what do we call this?
Poiupoiu's laptop.
Poiupoiu's laptop. All right, and just since, all right, we hit next. Here we go. Chrome is unchecked. I'm going to install Notepad++, yo mama, and 7-zip. Next. And that's it. It will create the, as you see, it's going through right now. It's formatting my partitions the way that I wanted it to, not how Microsoft said it wanted it to. Copying the scripts over, injecting drivers, and it's installing the operating system right now. So it's applying an image, and I will not have time to finish this, but if you guys want to see after, find me around afterwards, and I'll be happy to show you more stuff about this. But like I said, once this is all said and done, it spits out and says, congratulations. It just, actually I think we did, told it to log off. So once it's done, it'll say, it'll go through a process saying, getting things ready, getting things ready, getting things ready. It'll have a very similar screen to this, saying installing Chrome, installing 7-zip, installing Notepad++, yo mama. And then it'll drop you back out. It'll say, all right, locked. And you have your login screen. You log in, and it's a brand new, ready to go machine from a customized version of Windows, the way that you want it to be. So, with that said, I went through this a lot. I know next talk is in 5 minutes. Are there any quick questions? Vicky.
How did you get so handsome?
Lots and lots of hard work. Brimstone.
I deal with a bunch of Windows machines that people remote desktop into.
Mhm.
And have you seen anything where that out-of-box experience can be run over remote desktop instead of the local terminal?
Not unless it's like going through a Proxmox or something similar.
Yeah.
Just because you are interacting with the UEFI or the BIOS directly. It's not really a Windows environment. They do have some task sequences itself that you can run to do like an update. So you can apply a customized Wim or unattend file on top of what's currently there. I've not dealt with that too much, but so like I said, this is a lot more of a kickstart of I want to drop this in, I want to click, my computer name is poiupoiu laptop, and then I want to install these programs, go, walk away, and then a couple minutes later, I have a usable system. But I'm sure there is some capability involved. Any other questions? All right, yes, sir.
I think you mentioned pixie booting this. How
Yes.
are you using a system to do that, or just like?
So what this does is during, here we go. So like I said, this advanced configuration media, this will actually spit out your full ISO that has your operating system, WIN file, it has all that. But if you, like I said before, remember how there is the deployment share and then there's the advanced media deployment share. So the regular media share though, if we go to f:/talk, yes, give me admin rights, there is a boot and a light touch x64.iso. So this one is 358 megabytes. So you would just configure your however you can with whatever Pixie server you can, and you can say this is my ISO file.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. Like, do you recommend a Pixie server to use for this, or?
In my deployments and in my use cases, I've always done the offline install.
Okay.
At the same time though, my work organization, they use this very similar setup, and they use the Pixie booting because you have, rather than 5 or 6 people maybe a week, you have 6 or 7 people an hour that need their systems reimaged. So rather than pulling a disk, burning a disk, or a USB drive, they'll Pixie boot this ISO, and then from inside the ISO itself, or inside the custom settings on that, you can say, I want the deployment share to be this server. I want my username to be this user. I want my password to be this. I want to use these credentials, whatever. And then from there, it, like I said, boots off of this slim PE environment ISO, and then connects to your deployment share itself. So like I said, if we were to go to computer configuration and shared folders, shares, so now we see a PN demo, hidden share, and my talk share that we just created. So it'll connect to this remote share, and it'll deploy your current version that you have in your MDT directory, your applications, and you read from that over the network. So if you're doing like quarterly, yeah, you really don't need a MDT Pixie boot server, or Pixie boot off of this ISO pointing to MDT. If you are, like I said, doing kind of an offline install, then just use this. So, absolutely. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I mean, do you think they're actually going to do anything about like how they're supposedly deprecating BBScript and MDT is entirely written in BBScript? I mean,
Maybe. I sincerely hope so, just because, Windows 10 is going to have support for the next, 4 or 5 years, easy. I think actually a version that I do have is supported through early 30s. Yeah, so another 7 or 8 years. Windows 10 is going to be around for a while, but Windows 11 is already out there. New installs in my organization, they're forcing everyone to go to Windows 11. I'm sure everyone's pretty much in the same boat. Windows 11 is where you buy a new computer, it's coming with Windows 11. When they're already talking about Windows 12. So I really hope they are. In one of the Microsoft TechNet articles, they did say, here's all you have to do to fix this. and you have to change this command, this, and this, and do a whole bunch of other scripts and modding on the current MDT scripts and applications and commands to make it work. So I really hope so, because there are so many issues. I mean, you saw where selecting a background crashed in MDT, just here, in the pre-installation environment. So I hope they fix a lot of these issues, but it's Microsoft. We'll see. All right, it is 11 o'clock. I am out of time. So thank you all very much for your time and patience. If you have any other questions, hit me up around.